Good afternoon. Welcome to the Chicken Box. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I was sitting right before we started saying, I need a mental refresh. You know how sometimes you wish you could just, how you refresh your page on the browser? Sometimes you need just a mental free refresh. Spring is in the air and a lot of seasons are changing. And, but sometimes the changes aren't made in your mind. So today we're talking about Black people versus mental health. And yes, we've talked about it before, but it's so much to talk about. We probably could talk about it every day of the year, and just how we can mentally refresh and what are some of the solutions. I'm your host, co host, Kevin Impeccable Peck. Welcome to the Chicken Box. What's my beautiful host from Chi Town, which it may not be spring there yet, might still be
Nope.
snowing there. Courtney Alexander. How are you, Courtney?
I'm doing well today. Once again, I am blessed and grateful to be here. It's sunny outside today, so I'm grateful to see like the sun shining, 50-degree weather.
I love the weather report. Sometimes people base their whole day on the weather. Oh, it's gonna rain. I'm in a bad mood, but you can shine. Your sun can shine at all times. The Chicken Box, if you're not from Baltimore, y'all, is full greasy fried wings. And I don't even eat the fried food anymore. But anyway, it sounds so good with salt, pepper, ketchup. It's lunchtime too. Some people haven't eaten some fries and a half and half, which means half sweet tea and half lemonade. But on this show, this is where you get to speak your truth about today's topic or just something you need to get off your chest, like a mental refresh. Sometimes just getting it out helps you get a mental refresh. We have a special guest coming on with us. I'm sorry, I didn't even say it. And that it's terrible. We're powered by the Afro News or Afro American newspaper or Afro Media Company, Maryland's oldest black business. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is going to be a great show. And don't forget to hit the share button because somebody needs a mental refresh. So I'm going to introduce our guest or let her introduce herself. Julie Green, not a stranger to the Afro. How are you today?
Hello, I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. Look, you got a nice plant in the background. The sun is shining.
Yes.
Man, I got a little refresh just from seeing your screen. Thank you.
So we were talking about the sunshine, and you said just having that attitude of the sun shining. I keep all my blinds everywhere I go. When at work, at home, everywhere. I keep the blinds open so that the sun can shine in.
Absolutely. And we're actually talking about that sometimes, especially when you just sit behind a computer too long, that it's just good to get out, get some fresh air, and refresh. Julie, what actually is your position? Why don't you tell
I'm a
everybody?
licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Maryland. Been in the industry for about 18 years and have functioned in several different capacities in the industry. Just recently opened up private practice, specializing in mental wellness and positive psychology.
Mental wellness. I just said I'm you barking right up my tree today for my refresher, aren't you? Well, congratulations on starting your own practice. For those who might not know, what actually is a clinical social. Oh boy, help me out.
Social worker.
Oh, social work. I didn't want to say worker. I didn't know if the term had changed.
Yeah, so and that's a good question because there's a misconception as soon as you say social worker. Back in the day, the immediate thought would go back to the caseworker for DSS, and being a licensed certified clinical social worker is far from being a caseworker for DSS. Being in the clinical aspect, we are actually can be our psychotherapists, we are therapists, we can, assess, treat. So yes, it's a big difference than what the misconception of a caseworker is with DSS. But as soon as we say that term social worker, that's where most people's thought go to.
Right. I didn't know. Yeah. And so now we know, y'all. There's a difference between caseworker, right, and
Yes.
the social worker. Okay. So the caseworker just what works the case, and I don't know. Help me out.
Usually working with kids, depending on which segment they're in, because the industry is such a broad industry. I mean, it's just as broad as when we talk about the medical industry. It's just as broad. It's just that it's in the mental arena versus the medical arena.
Okay, so you have your own private practice now. What? Who comes to see you? Or who are you able to impact?
I mean, my clientele is open, male, female, any nationality, any um, race, culture. But I do, again, like I said, focus on positive psychology. So there are different dynamics of it. And I focus more on not being stuck with the past or where you are, but finding something positive to move forward so that you don't stay stuck. Now, most people will take that theory of positive psychology if they don't really understand it in a negative way. And when studying that, we're not saying that everything has to be positive, that you don't have bad days or things don't happen. But what the focus is looking at, how can you take the good from it and move forward? Because so often we focus on the negative, and when you focus on the negative, we all know, whether you're in the industry or not, just being a human being, we all know when we think negative, we feel that way. And that's the energy and the vibe that we bring to ourselves. But when we think positive, that's the same energy and vibe that you bring to yourself.
I like that, Julie. If you just tuned in, this is Black People versus Mental Health. And we have a special guest, Julie Green, who just launched her business in the Baltimore area. If you need to get in contact with her, we will put the information up there. But we're having a conversation about mental health, but we're talking about positive impact today, right? Positive transformations and how your mindset. Thanks, Laura Bell. Thank you for tuning in, and anybody else who's just listening, hit the share button if you can, because it may help someone else. Courtney, I forgot we're a generational show, Julie. I represent Gen X. Courtney,
Gen Z.
Gen Z, and
Baby boomer.
what? I thought you was a Gen X girl. But anyway,
I'm the end of the baby boomer, so I'm on the line. I could be either.
you're on the line. Okay, you could be extra sometimes. Absolutely. So the Gen Z, or today's term, everything is a vibe, right? So,
Mhm.
Courtney, talk to me when your generation says everything's a vibe. What does that mean?
There's actually a song about it, that's a vibe with Ty Dollar Sign, but something being a vibe, it's like it's the move, like it's like you're vibing, like you're in that moment. That's how I wanted to find it.
Because Julie said something about positive vibes, right? So, what usually breaks your vibe?
Honestly, I would say negativity. Julie like highlighted the importance of, being positive, but I think when someone is constantly negative, or you're met by, I guess, negative situations, like, on a consistent basis, that can, it can throw off the vibe.
Absolutely, Julie. Man, you made me. I was starting to vibe, but what do you say to the person who says you always seem positive? Boy, you always seem upbeat. Like nothing's ever wrong with you. What do you say to that person?
Well, and I hear that. I hear that a lot. I have friends that I've had for 20 some plus years, and they say, "You never let anything bother you. Why, how can you act like that? Like it's like nothing bothers you." But it's not that things don't bother me. It's just how I choose to deal with them. And especially being in the state that I am in life now, being a baby boomer, um, I just choose peace. And so it's a choice. I truly believe that it's a choice. And for some, it's harder than others. I've been practicing it for a long, long time. So it comes a little easier for me because I've been practicing it even before getting into the industry. I mean, as a kid, I've always believed that we're as happy as we make ourselves. So I've never looked for others to make me happy or to give me that joy or anything like that. But then getting into the industry, and then within the last 5 years, being able to tap into the positive psychology, because there was a point where I was going to get out of the industry because it just felt so gloom. And just hearing other people talk, it's just like, okay, but how do we move beyond this? And so when I stumbled upon positive psychology and started studying, and I'm like, this is me. This is so me. So it's, for me, again, it's easier because I've been practicing it and doing it for so long, even before I knew the book technologies of it. But it's a choice. It really is a choice. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to find that place of peace and positivity, or you can choose to be the victim and stay in that negative space.
Ooh, that's good. Dr. Draper, welcome to the Chicken Box. This is Black
Thank
People
you.
versus
Hello.
Mental Health, which I'm sure
Hello.
you know a little bit about through your travels in life. And we have, of course, Julie Green, CEO, business owner, and she found her purpose. She found her place. She found where it was that she wanted to impact people in not just her community, but anybody who was looking to make a change. So this sometimes people don't know that they're looking to make a change, huh, Julie?
Yes, absolutely.
So
And some,
so where is that person who is in such a fog or in a negative space that they can't even see that they even if they turn left, the light might hit them?
sometimes people been in the dark for so long. Like, and I have clients that come, and when I'm sensing that type of energy, because you can sense that type of energy. One of the things I do say, and this sounds so small, but it's a lot of times it's the small things that make huge impacts. And just like I shared with you at the beginning, the first thing I say to them is open your blinds, turn your lights on, get the blue lights, bring light into your space, because when you're in that negative space, you tend to stay in dark arenas. And so even if you're feeling bad, if the sun's coming through your window, it's kind of hard to just really stay in that space. Like 9 out of 10 times you want to get up and go outside and try to catch some of that sun. So that can kind of help you out, in that space as well.
So that's a small start without opening a can, right? Dr. Draper, jump in to the call.
Hey, first of all, let me say hello to Julie. Thank you for joining Chicken Box again. I wasn't with you the first time, so I said, yeah, bring her back again. I want to interact with Julie. So thanks
Well, thank you for the invite and having me back.
Thank you. Thanks for the work that you do. I mean, we're talking about mental health and positive, affirmations, positive actions, positive things that people can do just to lift their mood and to change, as you said, the energy inside of them and the energy in the room. And it seems like post-pandemic, and you all may have talked about this already, so many people crawled into a hole someplace, and not only did they not come outside and interact, some are still inside, inside in a lot of different ways. So I'm just curious, Dr. Green, this I don't want to call it a spate, but it seems that the violence, especially among young people, has escalated, at least in our area, and I think in other areas in the country. And then the attacks against schools and school children, like we saw in Tennessee. I know you probably see a lot of people who are challenged in a lot of areas and may not have a diagnosis, but post-pandemic, all kinds of things are happening. Can you say a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of the connection between what we're seeing in our everyday lives and what you're seeing in your clinical practice?
People are disconnected. They are. And since prior to opening up private practice, I saw a little bit of everything because I work with kids as well as adults. And when we talk about kids, it's frightening because they are in such a space that they don't even understand themselves. And as clinicians, we are all grappling together, trying to help them understand something that we're trying to understand at the same time. And the interaction, like you said, is, they doing school online, they're playing the games online, so their social skills are diminishing. Like they really don't really know how to interact with people. And I've had quite a few parents when I was dealing with a lot of kids, quite a few parents just complaining about or just talking about how since COVID, their kids' personality, their demeanor is totally different. And the frightening part about it is the things that they used to be able to do to help get the kids in order, like taking away the phone, taking away their electronics and stuff, they can't necessarily do that now because that's the way of life. That's how they communicate. School is, all of their tests and exams, they got to do those things electronically. So it is, we're coming through COVID, so they say, but some of the challenges that we faced on COVID, we are still in a pandemic, because even the professionals, the clinicians, all of us, we're still searching for answers, and we people come through this. For me, I've taken I'll focus on one, the positive aspects, and two, the wellness, helping people understand what mental health is all about. Not that it's you're diagnosed. The first thing people think when we say mental health is that you have a mental illness or that you're diagnosed, but that's not the case. And if we understand what mental health is, then we can help or try to help break some of the barriers when it comes to Black people or people of color and mental health and seeking that treatment. So my focus, really, this is my passion, is to help people understand what mental health is, what mental illness is, and the importance of mental wellness. And while they're all in the same family, they are all separate or different, have different entities to them.
I like that. That's really helpful. I used to this is why Impeccable said in my travels. So as a licensed therapist, I don't practice anymore. My license is no longer valid. Keep your license up, certainly, and all of your CEUs up. You don't stay in that space. But I'm glad you said something about mental wellness. All of us. That I think that's the point that I heard you make when I got on. All of us should be concerned about our mental wellness, just like we do any other part of our wellness.
Absolutely.
And so it's mind, body, soul, and spirit, right? It's
yes.
It's all of those. Have you already touched on the relationship, or what do you think about, this whole, when we talk about mental wellness, mental wholeness, between what we eat and how we think and how we respond and all of that? I think there's a space somewhere for that. I don't know if that's in your space, but I know there are a lot of people who are really interested in, all of the nutritional supplements that aid our mental wellness, or could aid our mental wellness. I don't want to draw a conclusion.
Anybody else chiming in? Or you waiting?
Oh no, I mean, welcome back to the Chicken Box. And I think your specialty is the positive impact. It may not be the food, but let's think about it, y'all. There's something called the African sleeping sickness, also known as itis.
But I believe in it. I definitely believe
that comes from a certain thing. Now I don't know if certain food will make you mentally depressed, but I'm sure studies on that, and this is probably not the show for it, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I ate, and after you get a certain age, Gen X and baby boomers, you better not eat after a certain time of night, or the food will be all up in your throat. And the young people look at you funny, but that's called acid reflux, and it comes from just eating something crazy without giving your system enough time to digest. Because what time is dinner time in the Black community? Anybody?
Probably 8 o'clock. 7, between 6 and 8. Mine's, I try to eat before 6, but generally it's between 6 and 8.
What you say, Courtney? Gen Z. What's dinner time in the Black community?
Actually, I'm going to say about 7 through about 10 p.m. It depends on what you're doing for the day.
7 to 10, Dr. Draper?
I'm with Courtney.
7 to 10 sounds right. Okay,
I've heard that though it's best to do it earlier, like Dr. Green said, do it.
All right. Well, our Caucasian brothers and sisters, what time do you think their dinner time is?
I have no idea.
4, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
Courtney say 4.
4, goodness. Go ahead. I'm going to say between 5:30 and 6. And if you ever try to make a dinner reservation around that time, at a mixed restaurant, you will see that is typically, now of course it's extremes on both ends, but like y'all said, we eat whenever. And it used to be a time when you would sit down with your family and you would have dinner. Dinner would be at something, and whatever it is that you had to do, meeting, Zoom, schedule, whatever, you took a pause, got a chance to sit down. And I think we've missed that. That's kind of a mental refresher. And then we don't know what's going on with our kids and our family, or just relationships. You could just be you and your spouse, or you and your significant other. You guys haven't got a chance to sit down and catch up, so you don't even know what's going on. And they giving you their schedule on the fly. They just running by you. Oh, I didn't tell you I was going here. Oh yeah, I forgot. Well, it's on our calendar. Oh, I don't look at the group calendar. All of those things that could have just probably been eliminated on let's call it a food for my foodie Lenore, for let's have a food mental refresh and catch up in our family. I mean, that may be something you could do for free without even going to see a specialist. But we do have a specialist, Dr. Green, on today, and food is not her thing, but she might come back next time and say, you know what, after I talk to y'all, let's see what the effects of food to the mental have meant.
Well, it is not my specialty, but Dr. Draper does bring up a great point. And it is important, because even when we talk about kids, feeding them a lot of sugar and how that affects their behaviors and their demeanor, and even us as adults, if you consume a lot of sugar, you become your whole what I'm trying to say, like you just become sluggish, you get tired. And if you eat certain foods that your body's not used to, it affects the way you feel. Like you talked about the acid reflux. So it's not my specialty, but I do know that there is a space for it, and there's plenty that we can talk about it and how it affects us, because it affects us physically. And what people don't understand is whatever affects you physically affects you mentally, right?
You did make me think of something, Julie. When the kids crying and you just throw a piece of candy up and they stop, maybe that is a direct effect.
That's just giving them something to stop them from crying, and then all right? Of a sudden, but at certain
candy
times,
just pops up and they just stop crying. You like, for real?
Mm-hmm. But you have a parent that has a kid that's all over the place. The first thing their pediatrician are going to tell them, stop feeding them sugar. The sugar helps make them hyper. But even when you think about drinking coffee, the caffeine in the coffee, so there's definitely a correlation to it. And certain foods does affect your mental stability and how you're feeling. So if it affects you physically, it's going to affect you mentally, because what we tend to do is separate this part of our body from the other part. And if you really think about it, one cannot function without the other. So she brings up a very good point.
So Dr. Green, tell me a little bit. I know you opened up a what's the name of it?
Transformative Healing and Wellness.
Healing and wellness. And so you're a business owner as well, right? You're a business owner.
Ma'am.
You are a clinician, a therapist. And I heard you talk about the barriers sometimes that people have around seeking our own mental wellness. So tell me a little bit about your business, how it's going.
So I opened up in December. Well, we had a grand opening in November, and started seeing clients in December. And as I was sharing earlier in the show, I focus mainly on for clients who are ready to move forward, who want to make a change. And why I'm a licensed clinician, I share with all my clients, don't look at me as a therapist. Let's get rid of that stigma. I consider me your change agent. I'm just here to help you to make that change that you're trying to find in your life. If you feel stuck, if you feel, like you can't find your place of peace or happiness, or, just trying to move beyond where you are, which a lot of us are stuck, especially since COVID, just trying to figure out how we getting back into the space, right? So that was one of my reasons of wanting to have brick and mortar, to help people who wanted to not necessarily see their therapist or their clinician online or on Zoom, because we do everything on Zoom. We talk to everybody on Zoom. So having that space for people to come back into, of course, practicing COVID guidelines and everything, but just giving them that space. But in opening up the practice, it's not, it took me a minute to get here. I mean, it took me a good minute to get here, mainly because I was trying to find my niche. I didn't want to just be the general clinician. I wanted to have that niche. I wanted to be able to share with people what my passion about this industry was, because the same as you talk about your providers, when you go to your primary care physician, he's your general physician, right? But if he detects something going on with your heart or something going on with a limb, he's going to refer you to a specialist. And so that's what I wanted. I wanted to have a space where I could just put my heart and be passionate about it. And that's where the wellness portion came in. And so here we stepped outside of the box. We don't even have a box. The box don't even exist. We have some wellness rooms, which are very innovative. And as Impeccable was talking about, we, finding different ways to do things to be happy. So we have what we call a plant room. And in this plant room, it's taking you back to nature. Right? This space is filled with plants, and we have a fountain in there. You hear the sound of the water. And this is a part of taking care of your mental wellness. So when we talk about taking care of your mental wellness, it's not that because you practice these behaviors, you won't come across issues, because that's life. I don't think we're going to encounter anyone on down to children who will ever say that they haven't had highs and lows and been stuck in places. But how we handle them depends on how we take care of our mental wellness, the same as how we take care of our physical bodies. And so these rooms are places, like particularly with people who are working from home and have the children in there all day, and even doing church from home, doing the clubs from home or whatever. It's that space that you can go into and just relax and take time for yourself, get back to nature. The plants in the room have been researched. A lot of them bring about medicinal benefits. Plants help with depression. It helps with anxiety. It brings a sense of calmness. So that's what the purpose of the plant room. Then we have the meditation and the mindfulness room. And in this room, you do just that. You go in and be able to let go of the cares of the world. Let your anxiety just drop. And when we talk about mindfulness, it's not just saying that you don't have problems or issues, but it's taking a moment to acknowledge where you are right there in that space. If you're angry, be mindful of that and take that moment right then and think about the fact that I'm angry. I am pissed. If he say one more word, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, right? But if we take that moment and be mindful of how we feel at that moment, when he does say that word, we have now thought about it, and it will prevent us from losing our job, going to jail, hurting someone, or saying things that we can't take back. One thing you can't take back is words that you put out. And so that's the importance of, mindfulness, and meditation has been proven to help relax the body, help calm the mind down. And in that room, that's basically what that room is all about: finding that space, finding your space, putting the electronics behind you. You don't hear the kids crying. You don't hear your boss screaming at you. You're in that space, and you're outside of your home, and you've taken that time, that energy for yourself. And then we have the splatter room, the paint room. That's the fun room. It's not so serious, but it takes care of some serious issues, because it gives you the opportunity to just be creative, use paint to Get rid of your frustration. I had a young lady come in there and she said she's painting on the canvas and she's being meticulous about how she's painting. And before I know it, she's throwing paint all over the wall. And she said for the first time, she felt like I don't have to be in control. And that's what the room is about. Just allowing you to be free and letting go that anxiety, that frustration. Just allowed her, she walked out and she was just like, I just really had a good time. I got a picture I can take home and put up where I didn't have to be in control. And I still like my picture.
I love it. I love it. You
Yeah,
guys,
that's
if
great.
You just tuned in. This is Black People versus Mental Health. We have Julie Green of the Positive Mental Space. How much does it cost to come there? And how long do you stay? Is it like you pay something to be there for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so you can book the rooms for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. You can book them for 30, 45. And the meditation and the plant room you can do individually, or you can bring a friend, your companion. They are both equipped that you can do either or. And the paint room you can do individually, or you can do as a group. You can do up to 8 people and your small groups. And if you wanted something larger, then you just have to make separate accommodations for that.
Do you put on a paint suit or you just need to wear some clothes?
If you're splattering paint, we do have paint. We do have paint suits for you. So when you come there, you just tell us what you want to do. Huh?
You there with some friends and they try and get some paint frustration off. Y'all all get paint on you.
No. So we do have we have aprons, we have the foot coverings, we have the head coverings.
Okay.
So we do give you garments, and we also share with people to wear something that you don't mind getting messed up.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. That sounds good. That sounds like the Afro. We might need to think about a wellness day down there.
Absolutely, I encourage you to
at the space.
I think
we're going to talk about that because we have wellness days, and different companies are implementing wellness days, and you got to do something different. And that sounds like something fun. So if you're a corporation out there and you need to take your team, holler at Julie Green and go and have some whatever room you need for that day. And if cannabis ever becomes legal, maybe one of those rooms might pop up.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, they said that helps calm some things down, make some back stop hurting and some other things.
Sounds like a slogan, impeccable. Take your team to Julie Green.
I like that.
I give you that one for free, Julie. All right. Courtney, you've been very quiet and talk to me. What you thinking about today?
Yeah, Julie, I have 2 questions in one for you today. 2 in 1. What are some of the stigmas behind mental health? And let's say someone is thinking about seeking services, but they're reluctant about it. Can you give some advice for someone who's reluctant about seeking mental health services?
Yes, I share with people, and this is, you'll probably just hear me say it over and over and sound like a broken record. Look at your mind just like you look at your body, right? Because it's all one entity. You cannot take one without the other. When you walk out that door, with your full body, your head attached to you, right? And we tend to keep those separate. And if we can think about that the same we think about our bodies, right? Because if you're not feeling good physically, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the doctor. You're going to try to figure out what's going on with me. Why do I have this limp? Why do I feel this way? And it's the same way mentally. Why do I feel stuck? Why am I having these brain fogs? What is going on with me? Why am I feeling this way? And a lot of times some of the symptoms, coincide with, could be a mental, disorder that's going on. But one of the stigmas is people think that once you have a diagnosis, that follows you for life, or that's who you are. And you're not defined by somebody that has diabetes. If the doctor tells you that you have diabetes, you're not defined by that, right? Nobody walks around and say, oh, Courtney, that's the girl with diabetes, right? But when we talk about being diagnosed with a mental disorder, that's how people see it. That's how our people see it. And it's nothing new. It goes back. I mean, and you think about what we've been through in history, and a lot of the things that we've endured as people of color. and that's why the stigma is there. And for me, that was why it was important to find ways to help people think outside of the traditional theory of talking to someone. So what I do as a clinician is basically talk therapy. I don't work with those that are had severe mental illnesses or mental disabilities. That's not the population that I work with. And generally we're doing talk therapy, and you know, may have homework where you have to do something, but that's not for everybody. Some people are, I can't talk to people. I don't want people to know my business. Well, you do need some help, right? How do you get that? So for example, you lost a loved one. You're the strong person in the house. You don't want nobody to see you crying, hurting, or upset. But if you hold that in, right? If you continue to hold those tears in, that frustration and that anger in, what's going to happen? You're going to explode, right? So why not rent the meditation room or the plant room? You turn the music on, nobody hears you screaming and crying. When you come out, the tissues is outside the door for you. You can dry your tears, your face, walk out, nobody even know, but you were able to purge. You were able to let that go and release. And your kids didn't see you crying, and your husband don't call you weak, or your wife ain't saying you're a chump because you cried, you know, things of that nature. So just trying to make that space for people to feel comfortable with, you know, and once you get here, the vibe, the atmosphere, the feeling is not like a hospital. It is very therapeutic. It is very relaxed, and it's so surreal. So getting here, you know, I've had clients come out of the room and say, well, how do I go about getting a session with you? So then that allowed them to be relaxed enough to be able to say, hey, maybe I do need to talk to somebody. If somebody can create this and think about this, then maybe I do want to talk to them.
Absolutely. I like when you said some men are triggered by their wife calling them a chump, or a punk, or whatever, and they don't want to release that fury because a man being called that, for some men, they want to put their hands on a woman. And sometimes they may have been called a chump or a punk so many times that they might just need to release somewhere. And a lot of times it gets released in the wrong place or the wrong space. And it just made me think about how something can trigger a person. You know what I mean? And so we talk about a lot of the things that are problems, right? But we typically don't have a chance to. Oh, it seems like it's an echo in my own voice. We typically don't have a chance to talk about a solution, because we could talk all day about these problems that we have, but if we don't ever get a chance to say, okay, well, how can we fix it? Then all we doing is like we circling around in the mud. You know what I mean? It's just like you said, it builds up, just like our body. If we don't go to the bathroom on a regular basis, that thing builds up. And you can have all kind of problems. I don't care who the strongest, you think you the most healthiest person, you let all that stuff, that was my word of the day, build up. You could be in the middle of the highway. If it hits you, I know you think you're too old that you're not going to have an accident on yourself, but is that what happens, Julie, when the stuff just builds up?
That, you know, a lot of times we call the police for things when people are going off, and a lot of times, you know, most of these people have been diagnosed, not taking their medication, not doing the things that they want. But a lot of times when you have people coming on the job, acting out, carrying on, it's true, they weren't able to release. They could not find that proper way to release, to let things go. I saw one of the viewers voting there about tears being, you know, good, releasing. And that's absolutely true. We have to be able to allow ourselves to cry and let things out. And I'm thankful that she shared that, because crying is not a bad thing. You know, she wrote in there, you cry when you're happy. Absolutely. But we have to be able to allow those tears to flow when they need to flow. It's important.
Cry. Real men cry, fellas. Just, you know, because they would always tell you when you were younger, shut up, get up. That ain't hurt. You know what I mean? As a young man, they're like, stop acting like a chump. Get up. You ain't hurt. stop crying. It's like you couldn't even get your tear halfway down your face
Halfway out.
before they telling you, you know, you didn't. But Laura Bell, she says she's. Are you saying that you have a bipolar diagnosis, Laura, or are you saying you have somebody bipolar that you deal with? But anyway, does
So
that
she has.
qualify as a mental health issue? Is the
So
question?
that bipolar does qualify. It is a DSM code, right? And so it does say that, you know, you have a mental disorder when if you're diagnosed with bipolar. How does that define the person? You know, you have to understand what bipolar is. And it just means that one minute you're at this state and your anxiety, you know, your behavior, and the next minute you're at a different state. And people tend to use that word so interchangeably when they have a friend that's happy one minute, sad the next minute, or things like that. But it's specific characteristics that you have to display to be, you know, diagnosed with the disorder. And it is definitely treatable. And it, like with anything, if you learn about it, you learn how to manage it. And again, you are not your diagnosis. And that's when, going back to Courtney, when she talked about how do we work through these stigmas and what do? We have to educate. You know, we really have to begin to educate. There is a, I'm trying to think of where it is. There's a state, it might be in Texas, where they're doing this pilot program that they're talking about deconstructing the stigmas of mental health. And what they're doing is showing pictures and taking interviews of people from all walks of life, doctors, lawyers, teachers, students, anybody who has been diagnosed with something, and allowing them to talk about their space and where they're, so that we can normalize this, so that we can normalize it. Because you've been diagnosed with depression, that doesn't mean that you're going to be depressed all of your life and you're just a depressed person. You know, just like with any physical illness, some are hereditary, some you have no choice over, some of it is just in your DNA, and you may have to have medication. That's the same with being with your mental health. Some things it's a history that runs in your family, and yes, you may have to be medicated. If you're diagnosed with schizophrenia, you 9 out of 10 times you're going to have medication to be able to manage it and move forward. But if you're diagnosed with hypertension, you're on medication to manage it and move forward, right? So it's the same thing. It still does not define you. And I think that that's what, and it's understandable because of our past, our history, and how we are perceived as people of color. Since we were talking about in the Black community, how we are perceived as people of color, you know, there's this term they talk about with women of color, the angry Black woman. No woman wants to be deemed with that term, but there are certain things that may be going on in her life that whenever she talk or whenever you see her, she may seem angry, and she may not have been able or had the opportunity or even choose to take care of what's going on with her that keeps her so angry.
Absolutely. And Laura, thank you for your transparency and for sharing, because everybody doesn't even want to share, especially
Absolutely.
in the Black community. And that means, I love how you said your disorder is not who you are. It does not define you, as I think that's what you said. And a lot of times you buy into, right, what other people say. But depending on who you believe in, who does God say you are? You can come out of all of that. You can come out of everything. Like you said, you in the beginning of the show, you choose peace. That is a choice. You can choose to believe what the doctor said, what the people said, what they called you as a little, you were the PP kid, whatever you were growing up. You can change. You can change in this 1 second right now of how you think by just changing it. It was a long time ago when I was first working at the Afro. I went to one of Tony Robbins' first big conferences, and he was like, change your state. Like he was saying, all of the salespeople, before you go into this meeting, you need to sit in your car and you need to change your state. So then he said, okay, everybody, close your eyes for 1 minute. Okay, then everybody would close their eyes, right? And you could probably do this, and said, I want you to visualize one of the most joyful experiences in your life. Okay, now take a picture of that thing and leave it in black and white. Okay, whatever it is, your mom taking you, whatever that picture is that brings you so much joy. Okay, so now add color to that black and white picture. And you can do this and try this at home. All right. Okay, and now besides adding color, I mean, I see your face is smiling and you're not even having your eyes closed, just thinking about that great moment. Okay, so now let's add video to it too. So, like, say it's my grandmother and it's her 80th birthday, and I'm thinking about who was there, and I'm thinking about the picture in black and white, and then I add color to it, and I can see color, and now I can see us moving around. I can see us singing happy birthday. And so all of a sudden, whatever I was thinking about, I now have changed my state that quick. But that's how fast you can take a positive moment and it can impact how you're going to deal with the next moment. Just something.
And you know what you just described, some of the steps of mindfulness. Like, and we practice some of these behaviors and don't even realize that that's what we're doing. But really, that's what it's about. Taking that time, being, but in that moment, you're thinking about and you're putting yourself into a different state. In that very moment, you're saying, this may feel like the worst thing that could ever happen to me, but how, let me accept it, let me own it. And then you're thinking about other things that can change your perspective and how you move forward.
Right, so that you don't drag what your problem was into, because I could be feeling horrible and it says, okay, now we're going live on the chicken box, and I'm like, oh God, do I want to bring, do I want to bring that energy to everybody that we're just trying to share something about Black people mental health? No, I have to, even if I don't feel like it, your mind is so strong that you can change and get through the situation. Dr. Draper, you probably have the most meetings on the on the show. Well, you're up from 7:30 to 10:30. It seems like on the Zoom. How do you make it through all of these different personalities and people you talk to?
So that's a loaded kind of question. One thing let me give you this positive about Zoom, because you can see it now. One positive about Zoom, just like the in-person sessions that Dr. Green's talking about, you can see people's faces. It's not like the telephone, you can see people's faces. And I like interacting with people. So one way I get through all these meetings after meetings is I'm a people person. I think if I didn't like people, it would just be drudgery. It would be terrible all day long. And I try to limit how long the meeting is as well. And I try not to carry other people's stuff. I got enough of my own stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the other thing you have to learn how to do, I think, is not internalize everybody's stuff. And just recognize, even if they're having what some people might call, because I believe every day is a good day that God lets you wake up, but even if people are having some situations that cause them some anxiety, situational anxiety, I don't have to take that on.
That's good.
Yes, that's good.
And I'm a fairly good listener. I'm a trained listener. So I wasn't always a good listener, but I'm a fairly good listener. So those are the things that help me. And I don't sweat the small stuff, y'all. All of it's small stuff.
Boom.
Unless you tell me Jesus is coming back and right there called my name and said, all the rest of it, I don't sweat. I just don't sweat the small. And it's not a facade. That's just who I am. So people ask me, how can you be so calm? That's just how I'm created. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, that's just who. So I think if you know who you are, then you know how to respond. But if you have not had an opportunity to do you, to know you, and not judge you by somebody else's you, right? So if you don't know you, then, and all of us can work on who we are, even when you know it. So it's a treat, just like I use women, I can use men too. When we get our hair done, our nails done, men, you get your hair cut. When you go to some place like a wellness place, like what Dr. Green has, that's a treat for yourself. Where else you gonna go where you can just spend half hour to yourself, especially if you got kids and family, or spend an hour with somebody who's gonna listen to you?
Absolutely, and not talk. Because you got some people who you gonna tell them you have a problem, and they're gonna already be telling you how to solve it without you even finishing telling them what you're going through.
Right, but you really have the answers inside of you. So they, and so I'm looking at Dr. Green. I'm saying she didn't use this word. She can tell me if I'm characterizing it incorrectly. But she's more like to me, sounds like she's a life coach.
I used that. I said that earlier. I said I don't consider myself, as a therapist. I'm a change agent, a life coach, and I didn't want to change my industry. But I'm just smiling at Dr. Draper when she was talking, because that's one of my philosophies. The first thing I say is, do you know who you are? Do you love you? Because when you become one with you, you take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. And then that begins to project. And when you're doing that, regardless of if you're diagnosed with an illness, you just real quick, because I know we got to wind down, but you got two people. Both were told that they had the exact same diagnosis, and the outcome is different. One has developed and worked on themselves from a mental perspective, that when the doctor says you had this diagnosis, okay, thank you, doctor. Now their next goal is, what do I have to do? How do I have to do it? Because I'm going to beat this. I got children. I want to live. I got this. And they're going to fight, and they're going to, because they know who they are as a person and their purpose. And then you got this other person over here who has not worked on themselves, who have not built themselves up strong mentally. And the doctor says it, and it's, oh my God, it's a death sentence. The doctor said I have hypertension and I'm going to die, and da-da-da-da-da. Well, we all going to die, right? But how did you take that same diagnosis, and how did you move through it, right? And you can't do that in a positive way or a healthy way if, one, you're not mentally healthy. And that does not mean that you don't have a diagnosis, right? Because you can be physically healthy and still have physical diagnosis, right? Have been diagnosed with allergies, diagnosed with, other things, but still from a physical perspective, you're healthy. And the same way with your mental wellness. But Dr. Draper, you were so on point. I was sitting here like, oh my gosh, she's just telling the whole thing for me. I ain't even got to talk no more.
Courtney, you come on every week with such a wonderful spirit. And you say what? What do you say everything? Not about the weather. What do you say every single show?
I'm truly blessed to be here. I'm grateful to be alive, and just for this opportunity. So it's about being blessed and being humble.
See, that gets me going. You know what I mean? Because you already come with a right, grateful my heart, and your mindset is, and you seem like you start your day. Some people start their day with going to their phone, Instagram, or you just, some negative news, and that's what they start their day with. What do you say, Dr. Green? How should you start? What's your suggestion to get mentally?
I like Courtney, but I get up every morning and I'm grateful. I'm grateful, and I know that everybody out here does not believe in the higher being of God, but they believe in something, right? They believe in the universe. They believe in something. So you wake up in the morning and you just be grateful, right? For me, in everything, I'm going through a serious physical challenge, but every time I get a little down about it, I think about the fact that I still have that limb. I think about the fact that I have the ability to recognize that something is going on with that limb. And so with all of that, rather than being down and sad and upset about it, I constantly think about how I'm going to get through this. So it's getting up in the morning, being grateful. I tell my clients, especially a lot of women who don't have great self-esteem or love themselves, get up in the morning and talk to yourself. I'm beautiful. The day is going to be a great day. Hello, gorgeous. Those signs are all over the place. I don't have to be perfect to make this a great day. I can fail, I can fall, but I can get back up. Recognize those things, that nothing in life is perfect. Nothing, nobody, no one, but how you work on it. So yes, that self-talk, like I said, is always the small things that bring the greatest relief and joy, even down to the rooms in the wellness center. Like you said, one might say, well, I want to go pay for some space. You're not paying for the space. You're paying for the experience and the opportunity to come within yourself.
Absolutely. And Laura, we see you. I think are you in the Baltimore area, Laura? And even if not, I think you might want to just reach out to to Dr. Green and just you know see if you guys can connect in some way.
Yeah.
Open some more blinds in the house.
And if we had time, which we don't, maybe for another show, Laura, you have a really valid point. There are a lot of people that have apprehension about medication. Just like
Absolutely.
vaccine hesitancy, about what we put in our bodies, and people said, "I don't know what's in there." Well, we don't know what's in the McDonald's fries either, but we tend to go through the drive-through and Impeccable, I think that's your device with the echo. But we tend to not analyze the content of those things. All I can say is there are things that do help, as Dr. Green said, with certain things that our minds are struggling with, and each person is individual. So I just wanted to affirm the fact that I hear you about the fear of
Yes.
medications. So when you are saying, I want you, it's in the Bible, Jesus asked the lame man, "Do you want to be well? Is that your goal? Is that what you really want to do?" So if I really want to do something, unless it's illegal or immoral, I'll try it and see if it helps with my wellness. So just want to affirm and then say what Impeccable said too. So thanks, Laura, and others, but thank you, Laura, for tuning in. Thanks for your question.
We are wrapping down. This is the Afro man. The Maryland's oldest Black business, 130 years, and she definitely wants to get better. Thank you, Laura. That gives us all a big smile. And we've been providing information and empowerment to the Black community for over 130 years, and that's what the Chicken Box has been. So go to afro.com, y'all. We are a Black owned business, and we ask for us to do what we need to do. We need you to do something as well, and that might be just to subscribe. For less than 2 Uber Eats, $40 a year, you can have a digital subscription, and you can help us march on to the next 130 years. We appreciate you. Or if the money's tight, just hit the like on all of our social media. Your likes, engage like Laura's doing in the comments. Engagement helps. All these things help. They measure these metrics. I didn't make them up, but I'm just asking so that we can stay Black owned for the next 130 years and stay in business with your help and serve our community. Okay, so we're getting to the Chicken Box. When you get on the box, you get your final thoughts about today, about how you feeling about our positive mental wellness refresher today. That's what I like. It's like a refresh, like a Tic Tac. Remember when your breath was terrible? Sometimes you just need a little Tic Tac, little mental refresher. I'm on the box right now. I'll go first. And I just think that it is a choice to be positive. And it's a choice of who you hang around that's positive. And it's a choice of who you allow to speak into your life and to what you consume and to things that push you to your purpose. And I think that if you would want to do better, you should choose to think of yourself in a better way. You should think of yourself as the most important person in the world, because to yourself, you should be. And if not, you're not going to be any good to anybody else. So put on that positive thing. I get that all the time. You always positive, because I strive to be always positive. They say you never get sick, because I say I never get sick. I used to say, Dr. Green, that I get sick maybe once a year, and I would get sick once a year. I said, wait, let me stop saying that. Let me take that all out of my whole psyche. And I just say, I don't get sick. And they said, well, occasionally I have some flu-like symptoms, but I never claimed it to be a sickness. And I think a lot of that, but the person who always says my back hurts, my leg hurts, they seem like they always have problems. And you can just change. And this is a simple thing by just saying something positive about yourself. So that I'm off the box because this is my box topic. I could be here all day on this part. Courtney, you're on the box.
Julie, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. This is the second time having you on, and I feel like you just provided some great informative information. Thank you for everything that you do for the Black community and the Baltimore community. And also thank you for spreading positivity. Like you guys mentioned, it's important to spread positivity and stop thinking like in a negative light, because that does affect, and it impacts your mental health, that can impact your physical health. So just like spreading positivity instead of being negative all the time. And like Impeccable mentioned, like when you wake up in the morning, don't be negative. Like, spend some time maybe praying or, exercising. Just change your routine because it's possible. So I'm off the box.
Exercise. Good Lord. Go ahead.
I'll jump on the box and say thank you guys for the second invite. I'm enjoying sharing with you, and I'll leave you with my motto. It's matters of the mind. Educate yourself, embrace your wellness, and work towards healing your mental illness.
Matters of the mind. Love it.
I love it. So I guess I get the final word on the box. And before I forget, I want to give a shout out to our Black Business Matters Expo sponsors. The expo is coming up on April the 27th, which is 5 days after our annual high tea if you're in the Baltimore, Washington area. But everyone, no matter where you're located, can sign up free. It's free. Somebody say free. That ought to put it. When you say free, that makes a smile, right? That makes you smile. You can't say free and not smile. But the Black Business Matters, but we do need registrations. So it's complimentary. That information is scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. And so we thank, and Taryn, you're going to have to run the sponsors again, because I actually want to say their names. I see Associated Black Charities. I saw M&T. So let me wait until it comes back around. All right, there you go. Afrotix.live. Did you all know we have our own version of Eventbrite? Afrotix.live. So, yep, M&T Bank, DC Small Business Development Center, United Way, Associated Black Charities, and more. Go to Afrotix.live for your ticket. Now, on the box about the topic at hand, those things make me smile. Black Business Matters Expo makes me smile. The Afro's annual tea makes me smile. The Afro's current edition, just hot off the press, we still do a print edition, yes, makes me smile. And all of the things we do on social makes me smile. And the work that Dr. Green is doing, Dr. Green, it makes me smile to know that you've taken the craft to a whole new level and combined, listen, y'all, in one place. You don't have to go to the spa and then go to the person that you want to talk to. You can talk and be in the plant room, or you can be in the paint room, or you can be in the mindfulness and meditation room. You don't have to do them all at one time and still book an appointment with Dr. Green. Wow, it's worth taking care of your mental health. So thank you just for joining us on today. And thanks to everyone for tuning in on today. We appreciate it. There's information on the Black Business Matters Expo virtual.
Right, in case it goes off, you can hit pause. You can register for free.
Oh, yep. And I see Chase down there, and Care First, and PNC, and Tedco, and United Way, and American Classic. And if it was bigger, I would see all of it, but you all can see it there. SBDC. Yep, I see it all. All righty. That's it.
Hey,
So
you guys think that's a moment? This is an important moment. It's an important moment because these are the people who believe in you. And so when you see these brands, that means they support Black business. They care about what happens in the Black community. And so when you see their business, support them. Okay. Just that. That's how I think it should work. Everybody, you know what I mean? You go to the cleaners all the time, or a place of business that you do business with. If you ask them to do business with you and it's only a one-way street, that's not a community. It doesn't allow the system, and the economic is a system. It doesn't allow the dollar to flow. And it doesn't make sense, but we take our dollars anyway a lot of times. And you need to do business with the people who believe.
Right. So Impeccable, let me try this again because I left out people. Let me start again.
All right.
You're right. Do business with people who do business with us. AARP, JP Morgan Chase, Care First, American Classic Agency, TEDCO, Comcast, PNC Bank. Wow, what a business expo. M&T Bank, DC Small Business Development Center, United Way, and Associated Black Charities have all signed on for the Black Business Matters Expo so that we can offer all of the registrations complimentary, free. That brings a smile to your face. All right, I'm done. I'm off the
Right.
box.
Julie, we want to see you because you can help another small business because you said it took you a while to get there, and a lot of people are thinking about opening their business and they haven't got there yet, and maybe you're the person who can give them just a little positive push. And
I'm
so
already registered.
stop thinking about it. All right, we got you. We got you.
Already registered.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, call a loved one. Not a loved one. Call a loved one. But I meant to say call a senior because they would love to hear from you. They have been home. They have been maybe not as mobile as they need to be. And they're looking for you not to text them. They are looking for you to call them and smile. It makes you feel better. You didn't say that, Julie, but a good smile just makes everybody feel
does.
better. That's how you can start your first positive mental attitude by just smiling. God willing, until we see you again next Thursday, we will be here on the Chicken Box and share it with somebody because somebody needed a mental refresher and wellness. Just pick me up for today. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.